Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Strong Collectors Podcast. Today we are on episode almost done of the 10-part series of ranking each of the characters within the 10 major factions of Mythic Legions. Today we're going to be taking a look at Xylona's Flock. Remember, within the 5 Good Guy episodes, you have a chance to win Arizak. Now, in order to win Arizak, you have to go to the Tiers Maker list, which is linked in the description, create your tier list for the faction, post that to the Mythic Legions Cabal on Facebook. Make sure you tag me, maybe mention the Strong Collectors. That way when they're getting flooded with the millions of you going and making your tiers list, they know why they're getting flooded. I'm interested to see how everyone's breakdown looks. Remember, you can change the tiered categories to whatever you want it to be. Right now, it's just the general ABCD. You can make it great figure, good figure, doo-doo garbage figure, which I don't think really there are any of those in Mythic Legions, but you make your list how you want to. Also, I think I forgot to make this a rule in the other videos, but make sure you're subscribed to the Strong Collectors Podcast because that's just kind of the always rule. I would assume by now you're all subscribed already, but if you're just finding this, make sure you're subscribed and go ahead and hit the like button. I'm pretty shocked as of right now. Maybe I'm jinxing myself, but we have 100% likes on all of the videos of the rankings, so let's see if we can keep that trend going. Now, without any further ado, let's get into Xylona's Flock. With 28th place is the Silver Dwarf. Now, if you've been watching along with the other rankings of the Good Guy factions, plain builder type characters don't rank very highly for me. I'm not a great painter, so I don't really want to have to add to them. Pop and swaps, sure, but it's just, I would rather have a figure straight out of the box, ready to go. And the Silver Dwarf for me really doesn't fit into my collection very well, so that's why he's coming in at last place. And similarly to the Silver Dwarf, we have the Bronze Dwarf. Now this one I think is a little bit cooler than the Silver Dwarf because you get the different colors of the weapons and horns, and like I guess that was the same on the Silver Dwarf. This one just seems more like it's a part of Xylona's Flock in the woods. Maybe it blends in a little bit better. The Silver Dwarf is definitely going to be standing out. And then we have the Elf, and this is just your regular elf. I think we've gotten newer, better elves since this one came out. Although this looks like it would be a really cool guard for this faction, for me, again, the lack of paint, I'm going to usually lean towards named characters. That's why it ranks a little bit lower for me. Still, I like it. It's pretty good for what the elves are. The elves don't tend to be my favorite race in Mythos, so unfortunately, he's a little bit lower. Next is Mirian Golden Branch. Now, I like this one a little bit more because of the color of the armor. I like the green skin. This is my favorite styled shield in Mythos. And this one is a cool figure, but with other figures in this faction, it just couldn't beat those out. So again, not a bad figure, just not highly on my list. I do like the details of blue in the armor though. I think that's really cool. In 24th place, we have Lord Adon, another figure that I think works, and I think maybe I'm just realizing that I don't like elves as much as I thought I did. The color of armor is really cool. Definitely looks like it's fighting in the forest. The sword, I really like. The bow and arrow is a cool touch. Definitely seems like a wooded character. It's a good looking head sculpt. I like the greens and the browns. And I would like to see some pop and swaps with this just to see what kind of combinations other people could come up with. Next up, we have Borus. Like I've said before, mounts tend to rank a little bit lower for me just because of space. This is a really cool horse. If you need a horse, I think if I was going to get just one of the plain generic horses without like armor or anything like that, this would probably be the one I would go for. I actually did get this one. I got the all-in for this wave, but like I said, not enough space for him, so I sent him on his way, but I think the paint on him is really good. Next, we have Xylona herself. I feel like this one is such a skinny character with such large antlers that it just seems almost disproportional. I don't know. Maybe if I saw her in person, I've never seen this one in person, so maybe that would change my mind. Definitely a unique head sculpt that I don't think any other character has. I can't imagine that those hooved feet would stand super well. Again, I'm just guessing here, but hooved feet on 1.0 characters don't stand well. I would think they would stand less well on 2.0 characters. And then with those antlers, I think she would be a pretty challenging balancing act, at least in my mind. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. In 21st place, I have the Elf Ranger. I usually like the Ranger characters a little bit, but I think there are other Ranger type characters in this faction that beat out the Elf Ranger. Like I'm discovering, elves aren't my favorite. I do like the matte green with this. I feel like we've seen some more shiny armor type greens. I like how this looks like leather armor versus the metal armor. I like the wrist guards and a lot of good details within this figure. In 20th place is Duban. Now, I think people are going to disagree with this one the most. I think a lot of people are probably going to have Duban as their number one character. Now, this is one that I was never super pumped about from the beginning. Like I said, I ordered the full all-in. This one I kind of wanted to see in hand to see whether I wanted to keep him or not. In hand, he looks a little bit more gray than blue. And I think in this picture, he looks like, if he looked like this in hand, I think I probably would have kept him. I guess that maybe doesn't make as much sense to have a ranger going through the forest. You maybe want to be a little bit more stealthy. I would have preferred this color, and you get him under the right lighting. That's what he looks like. I don't really want to have to like specifically light my figures. I'd like them to just look how they look. So for me, it wasn't quite the right colors. I had to let him go, but I am excited to get some other characters with this look. I think the kind of cloth underneath the armor looks really cool. I think the chest piece is really good. It's soft goods. I understand if this is your favorite character because it comes totally loaded with lots of accessories. Next, we have Aarius, and this is our only centaur in Mythic Legions, at least so far, our very first brute scaled figure. I said I don't really like mounts that much. Technically, he's not a mount, he's a centaur, but he does take up the same amount of space. But for me, I think this is a little bit more worth it because I've kind of always wanted centaur action figures, and the fact that Four Horsemen made these really blew my mind. I was excited to get him. I think the shoulder pauldrons on him are cool. The head sculpt is really good detail. I like the accessories. I'm really excited to see what other centaurs we can get in the future. I don't know how long it'll be. I would love to see Conibus as a base for a centaur. I would like to see a fully skeletal centaur. I think that would be really cool, but I think there's so many different things they could do with the centaurs that would look amazing. In 18th place, I have Briafius. Now, this is a Motu tribute that I'm kind of surprised is sticking around in stock more than others. I would think it would be pretty easy to find this guy for a little under retail. I wasn't collecting Mythic Legions at the time of announcing this figure, so I don't know what the hype was when they first put him out, but I think the fact that they did a fully flocked figure to go with the Mossman tribute that it is a really cool touch. I like the simplicity where you don't have a ton of armor. The armor that he does have is kind of plain. Makes him definitely look like he just came straight up out of the forest, like you could have been walking by and he just like was one with the tree and then poof, popped out. And then just him being flocked is kind of what sets him above some of the other characters in my mind. Not at the top of my list for Motu tribute figures, but I think in terms of like what they did to be able to create this, like they don't have any other flocked figures. He's one of a kind, at least as of right now, so I think that's really cool. Next is Thistlethorn, another figure that was sold out before I was into Mythic Legions, but I probably would have picked him up. I think this head sculpt is really fun. I'm surprised that we haven't seen it more yet in Mythic Legions. I know we've got it with the Stinkor tribute, but I would like to see some more of this race. I love the anthropomorphic characters, so more of this would be fun. He is a smaller character, which I think makes sense. He looks more of like that humanoid squirrel or chipmunk type of woodland creature, so although I don't usually go for the smaller characters, I am excited to see more of him and maybe some other smaller woodland style creatures. In 16th place is Artemis Silvercord, and I did separate version 1 and version 2 for this. So this one, you've got the full crown, the wings. I really like her bow that she comes with, and I think it's very clear when you see her that this is an important character within the faction. I like the painted legs, how it's kind of like that more tights material, and then the boots. I think the butterfly wings is a cool touch. We haven't seen that anywhere else in Mythos, so I'm curious if that'll ever come back up again. In 15th place, I have the Zenthon. This is a cool idea for a Motu tribute. I think it's very clear that this is being Stratos, which Mythic Legions does a really good job of taking the characters that they're doing a tribute for, but then making them a part of Mythos. For me, I really like the red wings for this for a pop and swap that I did with a Jaguelian. I usually have this one posed with the unhelmeted head, so it's just kind of that gray orc, which I really like. I like that it comes with the blue straps. I don't think anyone else has come with this color of strap. Typically it's brown, sometimes we get red, and then I don't know if we've gotten any other colors than those. I really like this style of blue as well. Like this is probably my favorite color. Extra points for that. The blue and red combo is good. I like that it's a different race of orc. Overall, this is a pretty cool figure. Like I said, I'm always a sucker for wings. If you put those on a figure, you're getting extra points. Thalen Frostbow is another figure that I think people might have ranked a little bit higher. Maybe it's just because I've never had her in person. It does come with a lot of accessories, so that's really cool. I do really like this style of soft goods cape. It seems like a lot of people like Thalen, so I wonder if we'll be getting another version of her, but I don't think so because I think she was just in the most recent All-Stars voting. So we'll see if she comes back into All-Stars again this year. Seems popular, but a little bit, I think, too new of a character to win the votes, but we'll see. Now, I know the Forest Troll isn't technically in this faction, but for me, I always have it in this faction because, at least in the story in my head, the Forest Trolls are kind of one with the forest. They're trying to protect it. They're the good guys. I always have it displayed as the bearded head. This is the only troll in my collection, my favorite of all the trolls. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be with Arethyr, but for me, he's fighting against Arethyr and protecting the forest. Trolls can be a little bit on the pricey side, so I understand if maybe you don't have one in your collection. I do think if you can afford one, it is nice to have at least one to have that different scale. Then you have everything from goblins 2.0s, 1.0s, brutes, ogres, and then the trolls. And the trolls are pretty massive. Next up is the deluxe male elf builder. Now this one was sold out for a little while. I think I just saw this morning, at least as of recording this video, that they're back in stock on Big Bad Toy Store at least. This one comes with a ton of accessories within the box. You can get a lot of different looks, multiple heads, different colored skin for the elves. If you don't have an elf in your collection, I think this is a really great way to get one because then you can kind of start popping and swapping, seeing what you like from your elves, and then you can go back and maybe try to find some of those older figures if that's what you're looking for, or as new ones come out, you'll know kind of the style of elf that you want in the future. Next, the deluxe female elf builder. Essentially everything I just said, except I like this one a little bit more because of the parts that it comes with. I think the head sculpts on the female are a little bit better, at least for what I see in my collection. I like the weapons, and I've said this in the last faction where kind of the bucket helmets are my favorite. For the female version of the bucket helmet with that kind of Templar cross on it, I think it's cool that this comes with that version of helmet, but in green. I don't know if you would maybe display this as a Templar knight, but maybe a forest faction within the Templars. Orm Steelhide makes it within the top 10. Now this one is one of my favorite dwarfs, mainly because of the color of armor. I could just see him running through the forest, wielding this giant axe, mowing down people without them ever seeing him coming. I really like this style of armor. I would love to see some more of that, hopefully in future waves. And this bearded helmeted head is for sure my wife's favorite of all of the heads within Mythos. And like I've said, every time we see this axe, it's one of my favorite weapons within Mythic Legions. In 9th place is Fonus. Now this is one, again, I like more of the mythical side of Mythic Legions. I love my knights, things like that. But when we start getting into different races and creatures, that's what I'm really here for. And the armor on this guy, the head sculpt, I think you could swap the head here and really have anything on it. And it's a really good base. I would be interested to see if people have done many pop and swaps with this character, because I think this one just straight out of the box is perfection. Krotos is one of my very few smaller figures that I own. I really like this. I just call him my little goat boy. I like the staff that he comes with, and I love that he comes with kind of his satchel of maps and different things. I have him displayed with one shoulder pauldron on and one off. Definitely looks like a character ready for adventure. He's traveled. He knows the lay of the land. I don't imagine him being super powerful, but I imagine him being super helpful for the faction. In 7th place is Alder the Moose, and I don't know what else I need to say other than this is a moose. The fact that Mythic Legions has made a fully articulated, full-scale moose blows my mind. I think the head sculpt on him is perfect. I think it'd be cool to even just take the head sculpt and like do a mount on the wall as a trophy, but just having a moose, I don't think I ever thought that I wanted a moose as an action figure until I saw this, and then I realized that that's all I've ever wanted was a moose as an action figure. Next is the Silverhorn Sentry. Again, we see that bearded helmet that I like. It's got the antlers. I know some people aren't a big fan of the antlers on their knights. I never thought of knights having antlers on their helmet, and this one is a little confusing because are the antlers a part of the helmet, or does he himself have antlers? Because he has hooved feet, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has giant antlers, but then how did he get these antlers to go on his helmet? Seems a little odd. I'd like a little explanation there. Overall, super cool figure. I like both of the head sculpts. I think I would probably display him like this. The weapons and accessories are really good. The colors, big fan. Overall, I think he's pretty well deserving of this spot. Now getting into our top 5, we have Artemis Silvercord. Now this is more of her, ranger. She's going into battle looking like this. I think the head sculpt is really good. That hair is really good detail. I wonder if we're going to see that on other figures in the future. I hope so. Like I said before, great bow. I think Poxus's is a little bit better, but as far as not being a Dark 4, great. This is one that I picked up at Legions Con. I was debating whether or not to pick her up, and then somebody in line was like, oh no, you got to get her. She's an important character to the line. So I ended up getting her, and I'm very happy that I did. In 4th place, I have Lord Bardrick. Now this one, top to bottom, head to toe, I think is a great figure, and it also lends itself to pretty cool pop and swaps. For me, this is a lot of parts that you don't see super often. The boots, the shins, the shoulder pauldrons, the chest, the neck collar piece. I don't think many of those are on other figures. The head sculpt, again, sort of like with Artemis Silvercord, I think is really cool. I like the crown, and then him coming with this axe. I want to be Lord Bardrick. Lee J comes in at 3rd place. Maybe there's some recency bias here, but I think he's deserving of 3rd place because he comes with a lot of extra stuff. He's almost a builder. Like, he doesn't come with as many like weapons and accessories and swappable heads, but he still comes with the half orc head. He comes with the armored arms and legs. He comes with the unarmored arms and legs. You can get multiple looks from one box and then use those extra parts on other figures for pop and swaps. And I think this here is my preferred version of Lee J. Maybe I would have the unarmored legs on, and this shield is my favorite color combination of this shield. And he comes with a helmet that can go on and off. Typically, you have to have a separate head for that. I think that's really cool. I think this is the first time that we've seen a helmet that's able to actually go on your figure and come off without having to swap heads. In 2nd place is Asterion. This is one that I don't have, but I would like to get. I've said before, mythical creatures are much more my jam than the typical knights and things like that. Although I like both. I really like the color of Asterion's armor. I like the blue with the gold. Now this one has caused arguments within my household. My wife thinks it's a man's body with a bull head. I think it's a brown bull with a black head. Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Is this a really jacked dude with a bull head, or is it just a jacked bull? And in 1st place, I have the Xylona Guard. Now this is one that I wasn't planning on keeping when I ordered the all-in for this wave, but once I got it in hand, it quickly became my favorite. As you probably know by now, sucker for the faction shield, so I won't spend too much time on that. I actually like it without the shield backing to it, so I imagine it's more of a weapon versus a shield because of the antlers, the points. So you could block with it, but you're also going to do just as much attacking with it. I like the helmet, where you can pull the helmet up and down. I like the movable parts there. The soft goods with the plastic, I like the options. Now, I don't have an army of these guys, but if I could, I definitely would like to have several, because I could definitely see these guys patrolling the woods and defending the castle. Now here's a breakdown of kind of my thought process while going through this ranking list. I'll leave a link down in the description below for you to be able to go make your own. Remember, post it in the Cabal on Facebook, tag me in it so I can see, mention the Strong Collectors, and that'll get you entered in to win Arizak. Stick around, because we only have a couple factions left to go through, but I'll see you in the next one.